European history has been one of the most important part of world history. And if when we talk about the most critical timeline of European history, then it starts with the French Revolution. With the outbreak of French Revolution, European history merged into the history of one nation, one event, and one man. The nation is of course France, the event is French Revolution, and the man is Napoleon. Every event, be good or bad, had a predecessor of many events before it. After all, revolutions are not catfights. Europe in those days was not really in great condition. Generally speaking, Europe had aristocratically organized nations, or we can say territories. And this was not only the case of monarchies, rather, we have seen aristocratic setup even in republics. Even if we put our eye towards the empire, once upon a time where the sun had never set, had landed aristocrats or feudals as the parliamentarians. Now, the common man had no real role to play other than the menial jobs and service to their masters. These landlords controlled the parliament and they never counted the man on the street. In most of the countries, the rulers were despots, although it is said that they were enlightened despots during the 18th century, but people of these nations depended on the whims of these rulers. Neither the masses ever had any play in the administration nor they ever enjoyed any kind of personal liberty. Serfdom prevailed in every part of the Europe. European rulers at that time were dishonest and unprincipled. Foreign relations and respect for each other's territories and empires had reached the lowest ebb during the 18th century. There was a general craze with these rulers for territorial expansion rather than development and progression of their own existing empires. Wars was the business they made, and the lives of the people they were the products that they traded for the territorial ambitions they had. No consideration was ever paid to the race limits or national boundaries. There was no man's land, and treaties had nothing but written promises and points that were to be broken anytime soon by the either party. The old ancient regime in Europe was disloyal to the very principle on which they rested. Rules and laws, they were meant only for the people on the street and not for the people who walked on the carpets. Punishments were given only to the servants and relief to the masters. All over Europe, the privileged class was either completely or they were partially exempted from taxation, and the burden of taxation always fell on the underprivileged shoulders of the nation, aka poor man. European society was organized on feudal basis, and the landlords acted like petty sovereigns in their localities. The conditions of the serfs was miserable, and the revenue generated by them always traveled to the pockets of their masters or landlords. To summarize, I would say the European society was a unhappy, unfree, unprotected, and they were underdeveloped mass of human beings to whom all the opportunities of growth and development were shut from every side. With inequality at its peak and starting of unrest among the masses and fight for the daily bread had challenged the very foundation of the European societal structure.